Sweeping sanctions are rocking the Russian economy. The U.S. has now restricted the Russian central bank's access to much of its currency reserves. The U.S. and European Union also disconnecting Russian banks from that international banking system called SWIFT. Companies are pulling business from Russia left and right, and the results staggering and fast-moving. Joining us now to break it all down for us is Michael Zweiback. He is the co-founder of Zweiback, Fizet, and Coleman. He formerly served as assistant U.S. attorney in the Central District of California and was chief of cyber and intellectual property crimes section. That's a long title. Michael, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So we're seeing the U.S. and allies enact worldwide sanctions against Russia. The ruble has tanked. The stock market closed. None of it seems to deter Vladimir Putin. But will the expulsion of Russian banks from this SWIFT wire system up the ante and create a bite, a deterrence?
Well, sanctions are always a long-term type of play in terms of changing behavior. They never have sort of the immediate impact. I think the key here that is unique in this particular crisis is the fact that you have not only the U.S., but also the European Union and also the Swiss, who traditionally have remained neutral, deciding that they're going to impose sanctions on those that are doing business with Swiss private banks. The thought is that this is really going to get to Putin's inner circle, where we believe a lot of his assets really are.
Right, and Vladimir Putin did warn that if Switzerland or Finland joined these sanctions, there would be serious consequences. What does that tell you?
Well, that we're absolutely hitting the mark in terms of the oligarchs in Russia. I think that there's another aspect, that is really not talked about yet, which is that the U.S. has taken the lead in talking to money exchanges that are really engaged in the exchange of cryptocurrency. One of the things that was talked about early on was the possibility that Putin would utilize the crypto exchanges to gain access to capital that he couldn't receive through traditional banks. And we are actually, with our European Union allies, going after those exchanges.
But those exchanges, that blockchain cryptocurrency, is unregulated. So how do you go after it if it's completely hidden?
Well, not the currency itself, but the exchanges do have certain reporting requirements increasingly, and they could be subject to increasing regulations. So, although they are not a traditional bank, they are now no longer as under the radar, and there is more transparency into what the exchanges themselves are doing.
And does it make a difference to you that two of the oligarchs have broken ranks with Putin and are separating from him because of the economic peril?
It absolutely makes a difference, because what we're seeing is that their ability to conduct business on the worldwide stage is being dramatically impacted in all ways, not just with the oligarchs, but now the fact that it is trickling down into every sort of common citizen in Moscow and elsewhere in Russia. The fact that they can't use Google Pay, the fact they can't use Apple Pay, those types of things are putting pressure from the bottom all the way up.
Right. And listen, Michael, energy is the #1 driver in the Russian economy. These transactions are excluded from the sanctions. Without getting at the energy section, can we have any impact there in a real way?
Well, we have to get to the energy sector. That's really the critical key. It's very complicated, however, because so many of the European Union allies are dependent upon Russian oil. That's a simple fact. And even though we are not dependent upon it, we buy it. And if we start to impose sanctions in that particular arena, we're going to see, for our consumers here at home, prices per gallon that we've never seen before. So that is a very complicated area to start to delve into with respect to financial sanctions.
Right. And the U.S. has warned of these Russian cyber attacks as retaliation. Hawthorne-based Elon Musk is promising to provide internet service to the region. How significant?
Well, I applaud Elon Musk for doing that. I don't think that that is really the point in terms of what Russia is looking for with respect to these cyber attacks. really what he's trying to do is he's trying to make the biggest psychological impact he can, whether that's in Europe, whether that's in the US, by taking down power grids, affecting railroads, other things that are of critical infrastructure importance that would have a psychological impact on our citizenry, so that we understand that we're not immune to his reach. And that's what he has been attempting to do for the last few years.
And just really quickly, is our cyber offensive with our allies strong enough to combat his attacks on our infrastructure?
We have a great capacity to disrupt their own infrastructure. We have what I believe to be a certain degree of deterrence because of our own, cyber offensive capability from Cyber Command and the military, and we've greatly beefed it up. However, the GRU has been at this for well over a decade, and they still have the capability to do great damage to our critical infrastructure.
Michael Zweiback, thank you so much for your critical insight at this moment of real crisis in our country. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning. We hope to have you back.
Thank you.
And thank you. We'll be right back, everyone. You're looking at a beautiful morning at Leo Carrillo Beach. How lucky we are to live in a safe and beautiful and glorious Southern California. We'll be back. This is your morning on Spectrum News 1.